All of our energy comes from food. When we produce good energy, quote, we can be an outlier, a truly positive kind of outlier. We can feel vital and enlivened and function with clarity of mind. We can enjoy balanced weight, a pain-free body, healthy skin, and a stable mood. Sounds like Carnivore to me. Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi here, as always, to meet, pray, and love. I got an alert yesterday about the #1 book on all of Amazon. That's a big deal. And that's usually reserved for things like Harry Potter or some huge entertainer releasing a new book, George Clooney. But yesterday, it was Good Energy by Callie and Casey Means. And I happened to have bought this book the day it was released, Tuesday. But I did not expect it to go to #1. That is huge, really incredible. And I recommend the book to everybody. It's something every carnivore, every ketovore, every low-carb dieter should read. And I'm going to share a few of its key transformative messages. It's really a very powerful book. And part of the reason it's so good is that Callie Means, it's Callie and his sister, Casey, who's a doctor, but Callie is an incredible communicator. He's been on every news network. He's been on Tucker Carlson. He's been on numerous shows, podcasts, and he used to work for the pharmaceutical and food lobbies. He was on the inside, and he gives great examples of the way this industry works, and it's good knowledge for everybody. Coca-Cola, for example, makes huge donations to school districts. The public school districts need money. And what does Coca-Cola get from these public school districts? They get to install soda machines. And it seems like a win. The students love it. I remember there were always lines for the soda machines at my school. And the schools get huge amounts of money. But who's the loser? It's the students in our society. In the long run, the students suffer. But the school boards don't want to lose free money. For a relatively small investment for them, Coca-Cola gets huge dividends. They addict an entire generation. And that goes on and on. Coca-Cola also mobilizes ethnic and racial communities to support their policies in the same way the tobacco industry did. And Callie explains this eloquently. The corruption is mind-boggling. In fact, something like 80% of the advertisements on cable news are from pharmaceutical companies. And they make these advertisements not necessarily to sell more products, although, of course, it helps, but to, in a sense, coerce cable news to be on their side. If you are relying on one industry for 80% of your commercial income, you're not going to run stories that really undermine that industry, are you? And Callie talks about all that eloquently. But the book is not about politics. It is about health. And it is primarily written by his sister, who trained as a surgeon at Stanford Medical School. And the book opens with how she realized conventional medical success, if you want to be a successful doctor, is really just specializing in smaller and smaller areas of the body and more specific types of procedures. That's where the big money and the prestige in medicine is. But while it helped solve certain problems, she realized she was not truly helping a lot of patients. She was leaving unaddressed core issues devastating the health of many Americans. It's tremendous. We all know the statistics. And those core issues, the rise in obesity, the rise in chronic illnesses, are all related to our metabolic health. Is our body producing the right kind of energy? That's the question. And of course, a primary source for producing energy is the food we eat, our nutrition. And our bodies are not producing the right kind of energy right now. They're producing the wrong kind of energy, the kind of energy that's from processed foods and from a superficial environment. She goes into great detail on this. And here's the connection. Here's where she really connects the food we eat, the health we experience, and the trajectory that our country is on right now. As she writes, good energy is also known as metabolic health. Metabolism refers to the set of cellular mechanisms that transform food into energy that can power every single cell in the body. All of our energy comes from food. When we produce good energy, she writes, quote, we can be an outlier, a truly positive kind of outlier. We can feel vital and enlivened and function with clarity of mind. We can enjoy balanced weight, a pain-free body, healthy skin, and a stable mood. Sounds like carnivore to me. If we're of childbearing age and hoping to have kids, we can enjoy the natural state of fertility that is our birthright. If we're getting older, we can live relieved of the nagging anxiety that precipitous physical or mental decline awaits you, or that will develop a disease that runs in the family. When we lose the keys to good energy, however, so much starts to go wrong. Organs, tissues, and glands are, after all, mere collections of cells. They're all connected. Lose the capacity for properly and safely powering those cells, and, no real surprise, the organs made up of them start to struggle and fail. This means that just about any disease can arise as a result. And today, given the pressures that our good energy is under, that's exactly what is occurring. It's all connected. That's the section in the first chapter. Medicine is taught to separate. We can be on 5 different medications for 5 different parts of the body, but it's all really connected. It all goes back to our metabolic health. That's what she sets out to prove in this book, and she does so beautifully. But then we get the next question. How do we produce more good energy? That's the secret to success, right? The secret to good health and happiness. She does not come down one way or another on carnivore versus vegan. I wish she did, but she doesn't. Her main urge is to eat unprocessed whole foods and then trust our body. Now, to me, that sounds like carnivore, because my body has never felt better than on carnivore. But it can be different for different people. Here's what she writes. If you're eating unprocessed, nutrient-dense foods from healthy soil, your satiety mechanisms work exquisitely. And then she puts in parentheses, like every other animal species that doesn't get metabolic diseases because they don't eat ultra-processed foods. And with that satiety, you likely won't overconsume. Therefore, your body produces the energy it needs, and the cell doesn't fill itself with fat and doesn't become insulin resistant. We need to get over dietary labels and just start thinking of food as molecular information. The key is understanding what molecular information is in the food, how much is getting absorbed, and whether the cells are, quote, happy as a result. I love that idea. I trust food with no labels much more than I trust food with labels. Labels, not always, they tend to suggest processing. They tend to suggest that we're trying to hit some numbers rather than eating what is proper for the human body. Dr. Means also talks extensively about fasting and ketones, which we carnivores often incorporate as well. My reading of her book suggests that carnivore fits in perfectly with the ideal diet she describes. And in fact, her brother, Callie, has appeared with many prominent carnivore YouTubers. I think he has a great interview with Dr. Chafee. Now, why doesn't she come out and just promote carnivore? Few doctors, aside from the ones we know and cherish on YouTube, really do that, unfortunately. But this book is also trying to appeal to as broad an audience as possible. If she came out strong simply as a carnivore, she'd probably lose a good number of readers and people wouldn't get exposed to the message. I'll take good news where I can get it. Perhaps the best part of the book is the real deep dive into the flawed thinking that undergirds so much of our modern medical system. Here is a true insider, Stanford Medical School, surgeon, major award winner. This is a person that is the top of the top, ripping into the perverse incentive structures and myopic focus on specialization, surgery, and pharmaceuticals. She calls for root cause healing. And we carnivores know that's exactly what the carnivore diet does. And one of my other favorite parts of the book is when she talks about non-medical and non-nutrition ways of healing, specifically getting close to nature. And this is what the carnivore diet helps us do. I like to think of carnivore as a partial rewilding of human nature. But truly returning to nature involves even more than diet. It involves lifestyle and perspective. As she writes, in our busy, distracted, industrial lives, we've become separate from nature, and therefore we become fearful and controlling of its natural rhythms and realities, getting stressed by a sense of scarcity when we aren't in the phase or pole of our liking. The yin periods of cycles and polarities appear unproductive and wasteful, so we squash and rush them, thinking we're brilliant for creating a world of constant yang. How foolish we are. Attention toward and awe for nature is the best teacher in gaining comfort with death and anxiety based on a sense of scarcity. When you look up and really spend time with nature and learn from it with humility and awe, you realize that you have nothing to fear. Amen. Don't allow yourself to be separated from your source, soil, sun, water, trees, the stars, and the moon. Get outside often to feel more peace. Or in the Hebrew word for peace, shalom. I couldn't agree more. In fact, an interview I just did about a week ago that I'm going to release soon is with a hunter. He calls himself Reverend Hunter, Tony Jones. He's phenomenal. He wrote a great book called The God of Wild Places. And he talks about feeling close to nature when he's hunting and how this really enhanced his sense of himself as a carnivore. It's a phenomenal book, and it was a phenomenal interview. I actually known Tony even before I became a carnivore, so this was a wonderful connection, and I think you'll really enjoy the interview. In the meantime, I think you'll enjoy this book as well. It's a nice addition to our carnivore library and to our way of thinking. The goal is restoring our metabolic health, and we know carnivore is the best way to get there.